quantum veil. In the sterile bowels of CERN, where the hum of the Large Hadron Collider echoed like the distant heartbeat of an uncaring universe, Dr. Elena Voss pursued her obsession with the precision of a surgeon dissecting a still beating heart. It was October 1st, 2025, a date that would later be etched into classified reports as the beginning of something irrevocable, one though the world outside remained blissfully ignorant, scrolling through endless feeds of curated chaos. The Quantum Synapse Lab, a gleaming annex funded by shadowy international grants amid growing ethical debates over AI and quantum ethics, was designed to bridge the gap between human consciousness and the quantum foam that underpinned reality. Voss, a neurophysicist in her late 40s with sharp features framed by wire rimmed glasses and a perpetual furrow of concentration, had long argued that the collective unconscious, Carl Jung's shared reservoir of archetypes and primal fears, could be mapped onto particle collisions. And beyond that lay the Akashic records, that mythical compendium of all knowledge, a cosmic library where every thought, every desire, was inscribed in the ether, waiting to be accessed by those bold enough to tear through the veil. Voss's drive stemmed from a personal abyss. Years earlier, a lab accident had claimed her husband, a fellow physicist, leaving her with a void that no equation could fill. She saw the collective unconscious not just as psychological construct, but as a tangible quantum field, a gateway to answers about life, death, and the hidden mechanisms of existence. In 2025, with neural implants and AI companions dominating headlines, her work felt urgent, a race against humanity's own self-inflicted distractions. We're on the cusp, she often told her team, her voice laced with a fervor that bordered on mania. The records hold the blueprint of everything. We just need the right frequency. The lab was a cathedral of cold light and humming machinery, its walls lined with quantum processors, whose surfaces were etched with circuit patterns that, in the dim glow, resembled arcane runes from forgotten tomes. Holographic displays floated in the air like spectral apparitions, projecting fractal maps of neural activity synchronized with the LHC's particle streams. Voss adjusted her neural interface pod, a sleek helmet-like device that interfaced directly with her brainwaves, feeding data into the system with a faint electric tingle that she had come to crave. Her team had dispersed for the night, leaving her alone with a drowsy technician, Marcus Hale, who rubbed his bloodshot eyes as he keyed in the final coordinates. Hale, a young engineer fresh from MIT with a boyish face and a habit of cracking his knuckles under stress, had been pulling double shifts, his fingers trembling slightly on the console. He admired Voss, but worried about her intensity. Whispers among the staff suggested she was pushing boundaries that even CERN's oversight committees might deem reckless. Run the simulation again, Voss commanded, her voice edged with anticipation. We're close. The frequency alignment is key. Double check the inputs. We can't afford errors tonight. Hale nodded wearily, suppressing a yawn as he complied. But in his fatigue, exacerbated by the late hour and the lab's relentless hum, he aired a subtle transposition of digits, pulling from an archived dataset of anomalous brainwave patterns buried in CERN's vast digital vaults. The frequency belonged to a long-forgotten study from the 1980s, conducted on a British artist whose mind had exhibited peculiar resonances during creative trances. That artist, Clive Barker, had channeled visions of torment and transcendence into his works, unaware that his subconscious had brushed against something real, something ancient and indifferent lurking in the folds of dimensional space. Barker's brainwaves, uniquely attuned to the collective unconscious, had once served as a faint antenna, receiving signals from a realm beyond the veil, a labyrinth of pain and pleasure, where entities dwelled in eternal exploration of sensation, indifferent to the fragile illusions of mortal morality. As the LHC powered up, the lab's air grew thick with ozone, a scent that always reminded Voss of impending storms. The collider's ring, miles of superconducting magnets buried beneath the Swiss-French border, accelerated particles to near light speeds, their paths guided by algorithms that mimic the synaptic firings of the human brain. Collisions bloomed in the detectors like microscopic fireworks, data streaming back in torrents that Voss's neural pod translated into subtle pulses in her mind. Initiate sync, she said, closing her eyes to immerse herself in the flow. The error manifested slowly at first, a creeping anomaly that built like a shadow lengthening at dusk. The holographic displays flickered erratically, patterns shifting from orderly fractals to chaotic geometries, angles that didn't align with Euclidean space. curves that suggested infinities within finite bounds, as if the fabric of reality was fraying at the edges. Hale blinked, frowning at his console, his fatigue momentarily pierced by alarm. Dr. Voss, the readings are off. Energy spike in the collision chamber. It's stabilizing in a way I've never seen. Voss leaned forward, her pulse quickening with a mix of excitement and unease. Show me the waveform. Isolate the frequency. The view screen overlooking the LHC chamber ignited with an unnatural glow, casting the lab in hues of crimson and obsidian that seemed to absorb the artificial light. What should have been a controlled burst of subatomic debris became something else, a shimmering anomaly, a point of darkness that expanded like a pupil dilating in fear, or perhaps in hunger. The air in the lab hummed with a low vibration, not mechanical but organic, as if the facility itself were breathing, its concrete lungs drawing in the essence of something vast and unknowable. Whispers crept in, faint at first, then insistent, a murmur of countless voices echoing from the collective unconscious. Desires unspoken, fears repressed, cravings for excess that humanity in 2025 had elevated to a religion, amplified by the relentless march of technology. Hale's hands shook as he typed commands, his screen filling with error codes. This frequency, it's from the old archives. Barker studied. How did that get in here? Voss's eyes widened, recognition dawning amid the chaos. She had skimmed those files once, dismissing them as curiosities, artistic brainwaves exhibiting quantum-like entanglement patterns. But now, synced with the LHC's power, Barker's frequency resonated through the collective unconscious, a shared psychic undercurrent swollen with humanity's unbridled impulses. Social media addictions, AI-driven dopamine loops that turned users into puppets of algorithms, ideological wars fought in digital trenches where truth was sacrificed for the high of victory. Humanity had abandoned the natural laws of balance and restraint. Lives were traded on altars of viral fame, peace forsaken for the thrill of outrage, self reflection drowned in endless streams of content designed to hook and hollow out the soul. The collective unconscious, once a repository of archetypes for survival and growth, had become a swamp of unrestrained craving, its murky waters drawing forth something from the depths. The anomaly stabilized into a rift, a jagged tear in reality, its edges writhing with symbols that defied description. They were not mere glyphs, but living forms, pulsing with a crimson black luminescence, evoking puzzle boxes and grids of torment that seemed to shift when not directly observed. The scent of blood and scorched metal filled the lab, mingling with the sterile tang of electronics, creating a nauseating cocktail that clawed at the senses. Hale retched, stumbling back from his console, his face drained of color. We need to shut it down, evac protocols, but Voss waved him off, transfixed. Wait, this is it, the Akashic Records manifesting. Look at the data, it's rewriting itself. The whispers intensified, a cacophony that burrowed into their minds like parasitic thoughts. Visions assaulted Voss through her lingering neural connection, flashes of 2025's world in free fall. Cities where neural implants promised eternal euphoria but eroded free will, leading users to sacrifice relationships and health for the next digital high. Governments wielding quantum AI for surveillance, abandoning ethical laws for the power rush of total control. Individuals lost in augmented realities, trading their physical lives for virtual extremes, bodies wasting away while minds chased unattainable peaks of sensation. No reflection, no pause, just the relentless pursuit of more at any cost. Hale collapsed to one knee, clutching his head as the psychic bleed overwhelmed him. Make it stop. I see everything. The wars, the addictions. It's all connected. From the rift stepped a figure, its presence a violation of all known physics, an intrusion that made the lab's instruments whine in protest. It was tall, clad in black robes that absorbed light, flowing like shadows cast by no source, as if woven from the voids between stars. Its face was a mask of serene horror, pale skin stretched taut over a skull, pierced by a grid of pins that gleamed like distant stars in a void, each one a point of calculated agony. Chains dangled from its form, coiling and uncoiling with a life of their own, their hooks glinting with unspoken promises of revelation through torment. The entity, Pinhead, though Voss would not know the name yet, surveyed the lab with eyes blacker than the space between atoms, radiating an ancient, unyielding awareness that reduced human achievements to dust. The whispers peaked, revealing fragments of humanity's descent in vivid, nightmarish clarity. In 2025, the world had accelerated its plunge into excess. Corporations peddling neural implants for constant euphoria, governments wielding AI surveillance without ethical bounds, individuals trading privacy and lives for the high of augmented realities. Natural laws, ecological harmony, biological limits were discarded for synthetic highs that promised transcendence but delivered only hollow shells. Self reflection was a relic, replaced by algorithmic echoes that amplify division. Peace was bartered for the thrill of conflict, where extremism offered the ultimate rush, lives, both personal and collective, offered up without remorse. Pinhead's voice, when it came, was a velvet resonance, carrying the weight of eons, infiltrating their minds like a virus rewriting code. The lab's alarms blared briefly, then silenced as if the entity commanded the machinery itself, bending technology to its indifferent will. Hale groaned on the floor, his mind fracturing under the onslaught, visions of his own suppressed desires, ambitions for fame in the scientific community at the cost of his family's well being, surfacing like boils. Voss stood frozen, her scientific training warring with primal terror, her husband's death flashing before her as a warning unheeded. The entity tilted its head, pins shifting slightly, casting refractions that bent light unnaturally, creating illusions of labyrinthine corridors extending from the rift. It regarded her not with malice, but with the dispassionate curiosity of a vivisectionist examining a specimen under glass. The air around it warped, suggesting dimensions folded just out of sight, realms where time and space twisted into knots of eternal suffering, where the cosmos revealed its true uncaring face. You have pierced the veil, the entity intoned, its words echoing in Voss's skull, bypassing her ears. The frequency you invoke was no accident. It has always been there, a whisper in the archives of your kind's dreams, a signal from the depths where we dwell. Voss's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle amid the growing dread. The Akashic records, she had theorized them as a quantum field, accessible through neural quantum sync. But this was something ancient, indifferent to human ambition, a realm that existed beyond the fragile scaffold of physics, where entities like this one presided over the boundaries of sensation. The collective unconscious had served as a conduit, Barker's frequency the key, unlocking a labyrinth that was no metaphor, but a tangible plane of incomprehensible order. The entity Pinhead moved closer, chains rattling softly like the chimes of a distant forsaken bell. The lab's holographic displays distorted in its presence, fractals morphing into symbols that evoked dread. Endless voids where stars screamed silently, entities vast and uncaring observing humanity as mere specks in a cosmic machinery of indifference. Voss felt her insignificance acutely, a speck of consciousness adrift in an ocean of unknowable forces, her life's work reduced to a child's scribble on the walls of eternity. We are the Cenobites, Pinhead continued, his voice a symphony of calm menace that resonated through the lab's structure, explorers in the further regions of experience, demons to some, angels to others. And you, mortal, have summoned us through your hubris, your unquenchable thirst for forbidden knowledge. Voss found her voice, though it trembled, echoing her inner turmoil. This was an experiment, Project Synapse to map consciousness, to access the records. We didn't intend. A faint smile curled Pinhead's lips, revealing teeth like polished obsidian, a gesture that sent chills through her spine. Intentions are illusions, fleeting as your mortal spans. The records are but echoes of greater truths, faint scribbles in the margins of existence. Your species has long teetered on the edge, its desires ripening like fruit heavy with rot. We have watched from our labyrinth, patient as the stars, as you abandon the universal laws that once bound you. The whispers from the rift grew louder, painting pictures of humanity's 2025 descent in harrowing detail. Voss saw it all, projected into her mind. Billions ensnared in social media's web, scrolling endlessly through feeds engineered for addiction, abandoning reflection for the high of validation and outrage. Wars raged not for territory, but for ideological supremacy, lived sacrificed without pause in the name of fleeting triumphs. Environmental laws were flouted for corporate highs, natural balances shattered for synthetic pleasures that promised immortality, but delivered only accelerated decay. The majority chased these extremes, giving up peace, sacrificing others' lives, even their own, for the illusion of transcendence, all in a short cosmic blink. Pinhead raised a hand, and chains extended, hovering inches from Voss's face, their hooks catching the light in ways that suggested they could pierce not just flesh, but the soul itself. Your world abandons universal laws, the rhythms of nature, the ethics of existence for extremes. No self reflection, no restrictions to the good. Peace is bartered for the thrill of conflict, lives your own and others, offered up for fleeting highs. It is this ripening that calls us. Humanity is a field ready for harvest, its collective unconscious a beacon we cannot ignore. Hale groaned louder, his body convulsing as the psychic overload twisted his perceptions. Dr. Voss, help, I can't. His voice trailed off into whimpers, his mind unraveling thread by thread, a victim of the rift's indiscriminate touch. Voss backed against the console, her tablet clattering to the ground, its screen frozen on the errant frequency, now pulsing in sync with the rift like a heartbeat from another world. She realized the truth. Barker's visions weren't invention but perception, his subconscious glimpsing this realm through the collective's veil. And now CERN's machinery had torn it wide, inviting the architects of sensation into a world already primed for their lessons. The rift expanded slightly, emitting tendrils of shadow that probed the lab's edges, warping metal and glass in subtle, impossible ways. Alarms from distant parts of the facility wailed, but here in the eye of the storm, silence reigned except for Pinhead's voice and the insidious whispers. Emergency protocols engaged, sealing doors with hydraulic hisses that sounded like final gasps. Hale crawled toward the exit, but a chain lashed out, wrapping his ankle, pulling him back with gentle inexorability, his screams echoing the collective's unheeded cries. Voss pressed a button on her console, activating a recorder with trembling fingers. If this was the end, science demanded documentation, a testament to humanity's folly. Tell me more, she said, her voice steadying with defiant curiosity, even as dread coiled in her gut. About our ripening. How have you watched us? Pinhead inclined his head, as if approving her audacity amid the encroaching horror. Your species accelerates toward oblivion, consumed by excess in a blink of cosmic time. Natural laws, balance, sustainability, discarded for the allure of more. Universal principles, empathy, restraint, abandoned for the high of dominance. Self-reflection, a luxury your algorithms have eradicated. The majority chase these extremes, giving up peace, sacrificing others' lives, even their own, for the illusion of transcendence. He gestured, and the holographic displays reformed, showing projections not of data but of visions. Cities in flames from ideological highs, individuals lost in virtual realms where bodies wasted while minds soared, societies crumbling under the weight of unrestrained desire. We have observed this from our vantage, where time folds like paper in space is but a canvas for sensation. The collective unconscious broadcasts it all, a siren call to those like us, who thrive on such desires taken to their logical end. Your 2025 world, with its machines that mimic minds and feeds that devour souls, is the pinnacle of this decay. The dread deepened, a cosmic weight pressing down. Voss felt the universe's vast, uncaring expanse, the stars indifferent witnesses to humanity's fleeting experiment gone awry. The Cenobites weren't invaders. They were inevitable, drawn by the psychic beacon of excess, embodiments of the shadows humanity had cast but refused to face. As chains encircled her wrists, not tightly but suggestively, their cold metal a promise of truths beyond endurance, Pinhead leaned close, his breath like the vacuum of space. Shall we begin the lesson? Your desires have invited us. Now we shall teach the price of your ripening. The rift widened further, whispers becoming screams that reverberated through Voss's bones. In that moment, she understood. The horror wasn't the entity before her, but the mirror it held to humanity's soul, a reflection of a species that had invited its own damnation through unchecked ambition and excess. The lab, once a bastion of progress, became a tomb, sealing the fate of those who dared to gaze into the quantum veil.